Chiaroscuro started out as an idea that was originally called Eclectic Cafe. And it was sort of based around fictionalizing versions of me and a group of my eccentric friends. That didn't really work out very well on account of I found it really difficult to start to fictionalize my friends and their behaviors. So about 2 or 3 rounds of false starts and about 17 pages one time, 8 pages another time. I kind of all of a sudden it clicked with me, and I knew what story I had to tell, and it changed the characters and the direction and the focus of the whole thing. It became Chiaroscuro. I'd started the comic as an independent self-published comic. I was kind of inspired by Dave Sim, comic book artist from Ontario, who did 26-year run on a comic book called Cerebus, and he's a very influential type of outspoken creator on creator rights and self-publishing movement. So I found that really inspiring, and it kind of got me to want to move out of the world of animation that I was working in into the world of doing comics, where I had a little bit more control over, well, 100% control over the characters and the storyline. So Chiaroscuro kind of developed from that. So the character Stephen Patch, who's the lead character of the story, he's just kind of a slacker, down on his luck kind of artist, angst-ridden. It's me, but it's not me in a sense. It's an amplification of an alternate universe sort of mentality. You know, what would happen if I was just a single guy living alone with a blank canvas to create my masterpiece with? Doing everything I can to sabotage my attempts at success, sort of thing. So I kind of took that and ran with it and fictionalized this world around this character, sort of a what-if story. Because of the nature and the process of making comic is so labor-intensive, I found that ideas just started developing quicker than I could draw them and write them. Eventually I had this, it became something bigger than just a few issues. It became this graphic novel, which was going to run maybe 50-odd issues, 30 to 50 issues, so a few hundred to 1,000 some pages long. Drawing on inspirations and things like the Cerebus work, like David Lynch type film noir. All these things started coming at me, and I had a well-rounded story in my mind and knew where I wanted to go, and knew that I had time to tell the story. So when I started drawing the comic about 7 years ago now, I was kind of drawn heavily from the Dave Sim style of drawing comics, where there's a lot of cross-hatching. And in fact, the tools I picked up were the same tools that he would use, the S172 illustration board and a Crow Quill 102 pen with dip ink. So very hands-on. I didn't want to use computers. I like the tactile feel of, you know, hand lettering the things and not punching it all in on a keyboard, and just the imperfections that come with doing things by hand, pasting down photocopies and things like that, whatever needs to get the image across. A lot of the visuals were taken with, like I mentioned before, with the film noir kind of genre and the very moody lighting. At the same time, I didn't want to get a really realistic type of drawing. I want to keep it a comic book. It's illustrated, so I play with the graphic side of it a lot. You know, if I wanted to do film, I would do film, but working with comics, I'm not trying to draw realistic people in a sense. I'm trying to do like a hyper-realistic, emotional, cartoony almost kind of way of interpreting the way characters act and react and stuff, to push the visual emotion of the characters and what's happening to them. That's a tricky thing, is saying, who do I write for? That's one of those things where, working in animation, the first thing I would always ask you is, who is your target audience? And that would drive me around the bend usually when coming up with ideas, because I am writing for myself, and I hope that it finds an audience, and I have found that it has found an audience that relate to the character. The character, I guess, is just somebody who's afraid to try something new, essentially, to branch out or see how far he can go if he actually applied himself. And he's given an opportunity, and does he take it, kind of thing. What would you do if you were in that situation is something that a lot of people can relate to. If your fondest dream was offered to you, you know, would you take it? You know, so I started doing the migraines in my sketchbook a few years ago, just as I guess as an alternative to doing the really labor-intensive cross-hatching of chiaroscuro, sort of taking a break from that. Just real easy, kind of one-off gag panels, which is very much in the contrast to what I was doing with the chiaroscuro comic. I always liked the comic strips with Peanuts and stuff like that, and Gary Larson's The Far Side. It's kind of an ongoing thing. I just pick it up once in a while and do it, maybe in a park, at a coffee shop, or wherever I'm not at my drawing table. The ideas to come from migraine are pretty haphazard because they're really some of the times, and most of the times, pretty organic. I'll just start sketching something, and an idea will come to me to throw in a weird voice balloon to go with that, which makes it kind of funny. Other times I'll actually take something from life. I did one that was about my father because he keeps candy and chocolates under the couch. So I drew a scene with a character in it who is much like my father in his recliner, speaking to a young boy about, help yourself to the candy or food under the couch while you're waiting for your date to arrive. Or more recently, a friend of mine, when we were complaining about our dog, and he said, "Why don't you take him out back, throw a couple of milk bones in the end of a shotgun, say, 'Hey boy, get the milk bones,'" you know. And I thought, that's funny. I'm gonna have to draw that. Someday, hopefully I'll amass enough of these things that I'll actually collect them into a book. Right now, I just have them online on my website and in my sketchbook. So that's how they exist at the moment.